Hey everybody, it's Mobius Y here with another video for Stellaris Console Edition. Before we get started, I would like to point out that this video is not going to be as PG as most of my previous content has been, so if you have little ones nearby, I recommend watching this at another time when they're not around, or just use headphones, whichever works for you. Secondly, again, this is going to be unscripted. That seems to be the common thing these days for me. I just kind of do it by the seat of my pants, and whatever comes to mind, whatever I remember, that's what goes up in the video. So hopefully I don't miss any. Hopefully I don't miss any important details, or stutter too much, etc., etc. Now, this video will be very different from previous Stellaris Console Edition content that I've done, in that there's nothing going on in the background. I'm not playing the game. There's no gameplay happening here. All of the footage that you see is stolen from trailers and feature breakdowns and various other videos that I've swiped off of the internet about the various Stellaris expansions that have been released so far. And the reason why I'm making this video is because a very common question that comes up all the time on my Twitter, on my YouTube comments, and in messages sent to me via Xbox Live is, "Hey Mobius, when's the next expansion for Stellaris Console coming out? Hey Mobius, do you know what the next expansion is going to be? Hey Mobius, when's the next expansion coming out? Do you know what it is? Hey Mobius, do you know? Do you know? Do you know?" And the short answer is no. The long answer is, I don't have a fucking clue. Please stop asking. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't have an idea of what we could see. However, there is zero likelihood that we will see any further production in the form of DLCs and expansions to Stellaris Console Edition if it doesn't do very well. If it's not very well received, and I have seen some quote-unquote professional reviews that don't do Stellaris Console Edition as much justice as I think it deserves, and if it doesn't do very well commercially either, then Paradox really has no reason to put time and money towards what is essentially a financial black hole. We can't expect a studio to give us stuff when it's just not worth it for them. So it's entirely possible that at the time of making this video, we have gotten all we're going to get with Utopia, and that's it. So please, if you get nothing else from this video, please hear this. If you like Stellaris Console Edition, if you want to see it thrive, if you want to see more DLC and expansions come to Stellaris Console Edition, tell your friends, tell everybody you know about Stellaris Console Edition, even people who you don't think have any interest in strategy games. Tell them about this game. Get the seed planted in their brains. There's a good chance that they'll just brush it off and go, it's not for me, I don't know what that is, whatever. But there's also a pretty good chance that some people will check it out. They'll try it on, for example, the Xbox Game Pass, or maybe there's a demo that they can download on PS4, or they'll go online and check out some videos of how it plays, or they'll read some reviews, and eventually decide, you know what, I want to give this a shot for myself. And then they download it or buy it themselves, and they play it, they find out that they like it, and they really enjoy it. And then they upgrade and get the currently available expansions, so on and so forth. And they further support the game by doing so. And of course, the more people that download the game then play it, the more likelihood that they'll come by my YouTube channel and watch my videos. So tell all your friends, get Stellaris Console Edition, watch Mobius Y. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more Stellaris Console Edition content. Okay, with that out of the way. So what we have so far with Plantoids, Leviathans, and Utopia. Plantoids just offers more customization when we are creating our own custom empires. It is kind of nice to have those additional options there. It's definitely not a must-have piece of DLC. As for the other two, though, Leviathans and Utopia, Utopia is most... How do I word this? Utopia is the most commonly referred to as the #1 must-have piece of DLC to have for the full Stellaris experience. And I wholeheartedly agree. The things that Utopia brings to the table in Stellaris with the mega structures, and especially the Ascension perks and all the other extra stuff that comes with Utopia for game mechanics and whatnot, you're really not playing or enjoying Stellaris to its full extent without Utopia. In my humble opinion, Utopia is just that good. It is really awesome building your own ring world or Dyson sphere, or choosing one of the choosing one of the ascension paths, you know, making your species a bunch of latent psionics, or turning them all into machines, or becoming so adept with genetics that you can custom tailor your own species and other species within your empire to suit the exact needs that you need. That being said, Leviathans is not considered a must-have nearly as much as Utopia, but the stuff it does bring to the table in Stellaris is still far more, for the lack of a better term, fun than what several other possible future expansions for Console Edition can bring to the table. Both Utopia and Leviathans bring in additional events and just more ways to play the game. With the Leviathans in particular, you've got the Guardians, which are the Leviathans. You have the Trader Enclave, the Curators, and the Artisan Troop, which also further deepen the strategy for playing your custom empire, And of course, the one thing that a lot of people think makes Leviathans worth it all on its own is the War in Heaven event, where two awakened empires that have always hated each other just go at it, and they just have a giant galactic slugfest, and you can side with one or the other, or just choose to go your own way and maybe get crushed under both their heels. So, with what we have, I think Stellaris Console Edition is very, very much enjoyable as it is right now. So, if you only have the base game, I cannot recommend enough, consider getting the deluxe upgrade, because the things that are brought to the table with both Leviathans and Utopia, and the extra customization available from the Plantoid Species Pack, can just make Stellaris Console Edition that much more enjoyable if you're already having fun with the game. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's talk about potential future expansions for Console Edition. So this is going off of what has been released in chronological order on the PC version of Stellaris. So after Utopia, the next expansion, and I believe this was a story expansion, is Synthetic Dawn. And this is one I am kind of looking forward to, because this allows you to play as a robotic civilization. Whereas right now in Stellaris, you either create a custom organic empire, and then you replace, or I should say build most of your pops up as robots, or you can technologically ascend and become robots. Synthetic Dawn allows you to create a robot empire. You have robotic portraits and whatnot, and I do believe there's a cityscape art piece that you can use in the background as well. You essentially start off as machines. There are different civics, and it's just a different way to play. Instead of having organic species traits, you have this thing called robo-modding, where the robots you build have specific abilities that improves their performance in various areas, very, very much like organic species traits. There's new event chains and story features to lead your robot race to greatness, etc., etc. There's also the Rise of the Machine. There's also the Rise of the Machines event, where oppressed synths may rebel against their masters and form new empires, or you may even discover a fallen synthetic civilization deep in space. Now, this one, I do believe we already have this in Stellaris Console Edition, because I have had a robot uprising happen in one of my first playthroughs, before we had any of the current expansions. I think I only had Plantoids at the time, but this was an old game, so I didn't have Plantoids installed for this old game, but it did happen. It took a while, but it happened. So there's additional, like I said, there's additional race portraits, and this is also the first expansion that gives us additional voice packs for Veer, which is the announcer that you hear throughout the game. Research complete, tile blocker cleared, and talking to you through the tutorial as well. So there's alternate voice packs available for Veer, which is pretty cool with this expansion. So just further customizing and custom tailoring your game for you. And of course, there's a few tracks of new music composed by Andreas Valdetoft. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly, to be totally honest, but All of the tracks in Stellaris Console Edition were composed by Andreas Waldetoft so far, and Synthetic Dawn adds a few more tracks that was also composed by him, so pretty cool. After Synthetic Dawn, there was actually another species pack, and this was the Humanoids pack. Right now, you may have noticed that there's only so many humanoid portraits. There's only about 5 in Stellaris Console Edition right now. What the Humanoid Species Pack does is it adds 10 more humanoid portraits, and it also allows for a humanoid style of ships. So it's like Plantoids, where they have a different ship design, and by extension, this also means their spaceports and their orbital stations will be a completely different design that we have not seen in Stellaris Console Edition yet. It adds yet another pre-made empire. There's new cityscape art for humanoid empires. There's more voices for Veer, and there's 3 additional music tracks added, which are actually just remixes of some classic and I believe more popular Stellaris tracks. So humanoids, like Plantoids, not anywhere near essential, but if you really like all those extra little gimmicks, all the extra little tidbits of customization that something like that would offer when you're creating your own empires, it's a nice thing to have. And then after Humanoids was Apocalypse, and this is a pretty big one that I was looking forward to. I do believe Apocalypse is when the free update that came out on the PC with Apocalypse is when this essentially upgraded it to version 2.0. With Apocalypse, you get the planet-destroying weapons, and these are really big ships. They are Colossus-class ships, and there's 4 types of them, and in their own way, they essentially wipe out a planet. There's the most straightforward one called the World Cracker, which does what it says. It cracks a world open and makes it explode, and erases 4 billion lives from existence in the blink of an eye. So if you're a sadistic motherfucker like myself, that can be really fun. There are other types of Colossus which do their own thing in their own way, but it's very similar to, just blowing up a planet and erasing it from existence. There's also the Titan class of ship, which is bigger than a battleship, and you may have noticed Titans from Fallen and Awakened Empires in the console edition so far already. We can't build those yet, but with Apocalypse, we would be able to. Not only are they a really big battleship on their own, or I should say just a giant-ass warship all on their own, but they also have certain aura effects that can improve and enhance the performance of nearby allied fleets and allied ships within their vicinity, so they can have a pretty significant impact in those major battles. There's also additional kind of pirate-themed events, namely Marauders. They're like space nomads. It says here, they raid settled empires on the fringe of civilization. You can hire them as mercenaries, but take care that they don't unify and trigger a new mid-game crisis. And that is, I believe, the Great Khan event, where the pirates come together, and the Great Khan is like, we are the superior force in the galaxy, blah, blah, blah. There's new Ascension perks and civics that are added in the Apocalypse expansion, so there's new ways to further custom tailor and play your custom empires throughout the game. And of course, there are 3 new music tracks from composer Andreas Waldetoft. And there are some pretty dang good tracks from the Apocalypse soundtrack, I might add. So, always nice to have additional music to jam to, especially when you're blowing up new planets. And then after that, we have Distant Stars. I would say this is the one that, if it is coming to console, if console does well enough, I think this is the one that I'm most looking forward to, because Distant Stars goes back to what Stellaris was initially aimed for, and it was about a theme of exploration, and that's the theme behind the Distant Stars expansion. It creates the L cluster, which is a cluster of stars outside your own galaxy. It's a small constellation of stars, and you have to discover the L gate in order to get there, and opening up the L cluster can cause all sorts of things to happen. What those things are, we'll have to discover for ourselves if this expansion comes to consoles. There's several new anomalies and events that can happen while you're exploring the galaxy. So I believe, it says in the feature breakdown 50% additional anomalies. So it essentially gives you the amount of anomalies available in the game right now. It increases that by another half. And it also updates some older anomalies to make them more unique and interesting. There's also improvements made to solar systems. You can have binary and trinary systems, and sometimes they'll have their own special resource to give you. And there's a few new Leviathans added to the game as well. I do believe it says that 2 of them are kind of almost identical to the Ether Drake, but one is drastically different from any of the other Guardians that are in the game. And of course there's a few new tracks of music, these ones from the composer Meyer. So possibly some new themes to come in. After Distant Stars was Megacorp. And I'll be totally honest, Megacorp I am not looking forward to. I do believe with the release of Megacorp, this is when Stellaris on PC went to version 2.2. And the reason why I'm not really looking forward to this portion of Stellaris, if this comes to console edition, is that it completely overhauls planet management rather than the tile system, which was created, if I recall right, at the inception of Stellaris, and it requires another level of strategizing and micromanaging. It changes it to the districts and buildings system, where you don't specifically control tiles anymore. The number of buildings that you construct is directly correlated to the size of the population and how many districts are on that planet, etc., etc. And you use those buildings to create jobs, and depending on the number of jobs on that planet, that determines the resource output of said planet. Kind of just going off memory how that works and what I've seen of YouTube videos. So if I've gotten any of that wrong, please don't burn me at the stake, because I've not played Megacorp, so I can't say for certain what it's like. But essentially what Megacorp allows you to do is you can play, instead of as an intergalactic ruler, you play as the CEO of a mega corporation. And you can conduct business on a galaxy-wide scale with a host of new civics. You build branch offices on planets within empires, even empires that are not allies and whatnot. And you can have trade agreements with them. And the Megacorp can add a portion of the planet's trade value to their own network. Using the new corporate authority, construct an economic powerhouse and dominate galactic trade. This also opens up certain different amenities of trade. You can actually trade slaves with the Megacorp upgrade. Or Megacorp expansion, I should say. This also allows you to build the Ecumenopolis, which turns your really big planets essentially into city planets. That's what an Ecumenopolis is it's one city spanning the entire planet. There's also Caravaneer fleets. They are nomadic interstellar salespeople, and they try to sell you stuff, and you can either go for it or not. And there's different kinds of Caravaneers that travel throughout the galaxy selling things to people. It also creates more megastructures. There's the matter decompressor and the mega art installation, which directly correlate to resource production. The matter decompressor creates minerals, and the mega art installation generates a lot of unity. There's also the strategic coordination center to greatly increase the number of military fleets and star bases you can have. There's also new ascension perks, again, keeping economy competitive in a cutthroat galaxy with additional ascension perks. And there's a few new music tracks from composer Meyer, yet again. Something I didn't mention earlier with this strategic coordination center, it reminded me that somewhere along the way, I think it's with Apocalypse in Stellaris 2.0, fleet management changes, and you have to create star bases. There's not just a flat fleet cap, so it was largely to prevent what was called doom stacking, where you just build one giant ass fleet that completely wipe everybody else out. I think it was with Apocalypse, but I could be entirely wrong with that. It could be in Megacorp, or it could be in just one of the free updates. I don't know where that is, but that the Megastructure Strategic Coordination Center correlates directly to the fleet management overhaul, which comes sometime between now and then. And then lastly, the most recent update, which actually came out earlier this year on Stellaris PC version, is Ancient Relics. And this is the most recent release. It came out in about July, somewhere around there. This one is a pretty interesting one. Collect and acquire valuable relics in your adventures as rewards for overcoming major crises or after completing a dig at an archaeological site and solving the chapters. Each relic gives significant benefits to your empire to aid in your interstellar escapades. So they're essentially things that instead of ascension perks that you can acquire, or even tradition trees that you can acquire that give you bonuses, they're things that you find. It further deepens the exploration aspect, except instead of exploring stellar phenomena and whatnot, Ancient Relics is more about exploring the planets that you encounter, sometimes the planets that you colonize. Encounter 2 new extinct precursor civilizations, each with their own anomalies, so that would actually be really cool to encounter. Once you've done each of the current 5 precursors in the game, once you've done those, and by playing this game for thousands of hours, and you've done each one of those about 24 times each, they can get a little bit stale, so having a couple new precursors is pretty cool. Relic worlds. Once teeming with life, these relic worlds now lie dead, covered with desolate ruins and dormant mysteries. Players can create archaeological sites to explore these remains and bring to light powerful relics and artifacts. So that's the type of planet that you can find. Matter of artifacts. Utilizing archaeological research, discover minor artifacts, a new resource type which can help empower one's empire. So rather than actual relics, these are a more temporary bonus, which, if I recall right from the feature breakdown, you use them and they give you a more temporary short-term boost, as opposed to the relics, which you can keep indefinitely and they can give you a big long-term boost. Dig in, hit the dirt on a variety of enigmatic and alien worlds with more archaeology sites available for your empire to study or plunder. Each site begins a story with between 1 and 6 chapters to investigate. Retrace the history to discover artifacts and relics that can be boons to your empire. So that's kind of describing how the archaeological events work. They can have up to 6 chapters which require you to progress through in order to get the reward at the end on that planet, at this archaeological site, before you get the relic or the artifact or whatever at the very end. And lastly, Ancient Relics features 4 new tracks from the composer Meyer. So that would put us on par with the PC version in terms of expansions. As I said, I don't know when these are coming out. I don't know if we're even going to get them in that order. I don't even know if we're going to get them. If you would want to see more expansions for Stellaris Console Edition, like I said, it is crucial. Let your friends know about this game. Get them to try it. Get them to look into it. Pique their interest. And maybe you'll find another long-time Stellaris Console Edition multiplayer shipmate, I suppose you could say. So I think that'll sum it up for this video. As I said, none of the stuff going on in the background was from me. It was entirely from videos that are ripped off of YouTube, namely trailers and feature breakdowns put up by Paradox Interactive for these different expansions as time came out. As I said, there's things that I would like to come to Stellaris Console Edition, not specifically expansions on the whole, but there's just certain things I would like to see the Console Edition get. If that happens, remains to be seen. I just hope that Console Edition is able to thrive so that we can get several more, if not all, of these expansions. I would very much like to see Synthetic Dawn. I would very much like to see Humanoids. I would very much like to see Distant Stars, and various other features from Apocalypse and Ancient Relics even. So, yeah, that should sum it up for this video. As I said, leave the video a like if you enjoyed it, and let me know in the comments below what you would like to see what you hope for the future of Stellaris Console Edition. And subscribe for more Stellaris Console Edition content. I tend to post at least one new video every week, since Tuesday night has kind of become my unofficial, official Stellaris Console Edition streaming night. Speaking of which, check the links in the description below for my Twitch channel if you would like to come by and see one of these streams live. You'll also find a link to my Twitter feed, which is a great way to keep in touch with me, as well as stay tuned if I have to postpone or cancel a stream in the future. And you'll also find a link to my Discord channel, which is pretty much inhabited strictly by people who play Stellaris Console Edition. You can come by if you're interested in something else that I've previously done, maybe Mass Effect, maybe World of Tanks console, whatever. Come on by and chat about whatever's on your mind there. Hope to see you there. Anyways, this has been Mobius Y, talking about Stellaris Console Edition content. I really would like to see this game do very well on Console Edition. And hopefully this helps you convince your friends to give this game a shot as well. I'll see you guys next time, and have a wonderful night.